Oh my god, that was softer than expected. We thought we'd come up a mountain to film today. We thought we'd just go for a walk, but it's been raining, and so it's just like a bog. We've both got thongs on as well. Anywho, never mind that. We're now 8 years in Australia. We thought that we'd share 8 things that we've learned in that time.
Yep, don't walk in muddy places without shoes.
Don't go up mountains when it's been raining.
Yeah.
Silly. But that's not one of them. That's just a bonus tip. One of the first things that we notice is that kids are more resilient than adults. When it comes to immigrating, I mean, I think that's all the time, but when it comes to immigrating, the kids just seem to adapt so quickly.
Yeah, most of the time they go on about they're going to miss their friends and stuff, but within a week or two, they're normally pretty good and pretty settled.
I think a lot of parents, before they emigrate, they worry about whether their children are going to be okay, whether their children are going to fit in, whether they're going to enjoy it. And it actually ends up seeming like the other way round, that it's the parents that really struggle, because it is harder to settle when you're an adult, and it is harder to make new friends. For our kids, Lily was 10, Ella was 3, Mia was 2. The younger two, it was like they didn't even realise they were in a different country, did they? They just enjoyed everything that was there. You know, they enjoyed the swimming pool, they enjoyed the beach. They were just enjoying all the new experiences, but there wasn't any kind of, I guess, sense of loss for them. Whereas for Lily, I'd say she adapted pretty quickly as well.
I found keeping her busy and getting her some interests over here took her mind off of the whole moving process. Once she found her group, she sort of thrived over here.
I think there's not that worry about what other people think with kids, and they don't fear so much. Generally, obviously some kids do, but I think because kids just, you know, they just go and do it. They don't really overthink it as much as adults do. When moving to a new country, I think there's quite a focus on ensuring that everything is at least the same, if not better. And what a lot of people don't realise is that at the beginning of being an expat, often you have to downgrade a lot. So you might not have all the same things that you once had because you're starting afresh, you're starting over again, you're building a new reputation. I don't think a lot of people realise that, and they find it kind of unacceptable to go backwards. But that's just what you do in the beginning, and that's actually okay. It's more about the lifestyle that you're going to gain in the long run.
It's more about the people that's around you and the lifestyle that you're aiming to have.
Another thing that a lot of people don't realise when immigrating is how much of themselves they're going to have to change. You kind of assume that a lot of things are going to be similar when in fact they're not. And you realise as time goes by over here that you actually have to change yourself quite a bit, and your opinions and, you know, the way you do things actually needs to change.
It's the same as moving to another part of your own country. Lifestyle and the way people think is totally different.
You're going to immerse yourselves in a new culture, change yourself and do a lot of new things. And it's amazing how much we've changed in the last 8 years.
Really, we're totally different people from what we was when we first moved here.
It comes as a complete surprise to most expats how much it costs to move abroad. You're thinking about the cost of visas, flights, all of that kind of stuff. But to set up and start afresh all over again costs so much more. We didn't really take into account a lot of the things that would be a massive outgoing. I think it's funny because you can get rid of your whole life back in your home country, and then as soon as you get your new home, you've got to fill it all over again, and you just don't realise how much replacing everything costs, how much setting up everything from new, start all over again. That sounds kind of scary when we're talking about how much things cost, but you do just get on with it. And I think some people manage to do it for a lot less. You end up just spending what you've got. Every single little thing costs a bit of money. It can end up getting out of control very quickly. So you have to keep quite a tight rein on it. That money is not the be all and end all. And I think you really learn that as an expat. Although you need the basics, you realise that life is actually more about what you're doing with it and the memories that you're making and the adventures that you're having, as opposed to just how much you have in your bank account. A lot of people compare how financially better off they'll be moving to Australia as opposed to where they're from. Although you need to make sure you're going to be okay, money can come and go. You know, you could spend your money getting here, be worse off financially to begin with, but actually your quality of life is higher and the end goal that you're working towards is so much more valuable than having money in your bank. You could be the richest person in the world and not be happy, or you could be, I guess, doing all right and be really happy because you're where you want to be, doing the things you want to be doing. I don't think that anyone moving realises quite how hard it's going to be. We speak to expats all the time, and I know that a lot of them are struggling, a lot of them in that settling in period, but the first 3 years you'll have heard me talking about quite often. That first 3 years are really hard, and I don't think people understand quite how difficult it's going to be. We certainly didn't.
No, it was a lot harder than what I ever thought it would be. I thought you just move over and the grass is going to be a lot greener on this side.
And you think that you're going to settle in quickly. Oh yeah, as soon as I have a house and a job, everything will be good. And it really isn't the way it goes. Until you've got your network, it is hard to settle because your network of people are what you really rely on. Talking of that settling in period, like I say, around 3 years, I think is a bit of an average for people that we've heard. That time, you just don't realise that it's going to take so long. But that difficulty, people often mistake it for you not loving Australia. That's not the case at all. Just because you're finding it difficult and you're having a bit of a rough time settling in, it doesn't mean that you don't love where you are and that you don't appreciate it.
If you're not liking where you are, maybe look at moving to a different area. That might help things.
We've spoken before about this, about tweaking things. Just because you're finding something difficult or not enjoying it, it doesn't mean you can't tweak it and make it better. It doesn't mean that you need to give up. It doesn't mean that you hate everything. It's just a case of needing to change things to suit yourself.
You're not always going to be happy with the first thing that you get. Try again.
That's a really good point. You're going to have to work on things to make them better. And unfortunately, it does take time, but it's worth it. And you can still enjoy yourself in that time. You can still do fun things, you can still work on things. People worry about leaving friends and family behind and it's going to be so difficult, and it's almost like people think they're never going to see each other again. And that's simply not the case. They can visit you, you can visit them, you can pick up a phone and see them on FaceTime. You're not losing them. And with social media, you can stalk them all day long.
We know so many people that their friends come over for a holiday or just come for a quick visit, and they actually fall in love with the place as well, and then they start their process of moving over. So in the end, you could have everyone over here.
Well, maybe not everybody.
Not everyone.
I do think it would have been so much more difficult maybe in the 60s, 70s, 80s or even 90s to emigrate. But now I just think it's so much easier because we're all so connected. You can stay in touch with every single person you've ever met easily. You can stalk every person you've ever met easily. Saying goodbye at an airport now isn't the same as it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, social media is so much more in your face now that you can't really get away from anyone or anything anymore.
With being able to talk to people on video, you're not going to get big shocks when you see them next time. It's not like you haven't seen them for so long that, you know, when you see them next, they're going to be all grey and wrinkly. You're going to see them getting grey and wrinkly over time, including us. Our family won't be getting any big shock. If you're an expat, or even if you're moving over, tell us what you've learnt so far in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Also, if you're an expat who struggled and ended up going back to your own country, what did you learn from that?